welcome everyone to the first workshop of the fall 24 semester. Uh, it should be a fun one, and we're going to be doing some Vim. We're going to be learning some Vim. Uh, in the chat, how many of you guys have used Vim before? Who has used Vim? Nice. A couple, okay. Got some fakers in here as well. That's okay. Okay. So what we're going to start with today is we're going to start with just like an example. Like I'm just going to do some Vim stuff, and then we're going to start building up from there. So I'm going to start by just writing a basic kind of hello world program in C++. And so just like that, we've created our first hello world. So now you were able to see some of the power of Vim. Now I'm going to showcase more of the power of Vim. And where Vim is really powerful is in editing text. Creating text, it can be helpful, but editing text is where it really shines. So if we go back into it, let's say instead of using namespace std, we don't want to do that. We want to include our std : colons. So first, we got to delete this whole line. So we're just going to delete it. And don't worry if you're not catching what I'm doing. I'm going to go back over what I'm doing afterwards. I'm just kind of showing an example of the power of it first. And let's say I wanted to change the name or the quote, what's inside the quotes. And let's say I wanted to say and there we go. So now we've done that. Well, let's say we wanted to, copy and paste it and do it a couple times. Obviously, we could do it with a loop as well. But sometimes, we just gotta make some new lines, right, and do some stuff. So let's go ahead and do this, and then we're gonna do. Now that would take quite a while to do with in Nano or some other kind of text editor. And so now let's say we wanted to go back to using namespace std. that would have taken some time to do in Vim or in something else. And then obviously it still works, right? Cool. So now let's say we wanted to make a new file. But let's say we wanted to do it while we were in Vim. So mine is highly customized. And I'm using my highly customized version just to, again, showcase the power of Vim and the customization, the customizability of it. So I can make something like, let's say we wanted to, have another file, and we did something like, say area. And so now, if I wanted to go back, instead of having to go all the way out, I have it set up so I can do it very quickly. And so if we make a function here, let's go back.
So as some of you might be noticing, Voss is coding some stuff up that we haven't maybe necessarily seen in Seaside Forward yet, if you're in that, but don't worry, right now he's really just giving a idea as to the power of him, and then he'll be going over the specifics on how to be doing similar things yourself. For anybody that just joined, please look in the Seaside 40 lecture room and go and fill out the ACM Club attendance Google form for us. That is how we will get you your extra credit if you are in Seaside 40, and otherwise it just helps us in terms of the schooling and funding.
Thank you, Declan, for talking while I'm doing this. That's not... Okay, whatever. You saw that you could go between files, which is the main thing that I wanted to showcase. There we go. And that's the real thing that I wanted to showcase, was showcasing that you can go between files very easily. So now what we're going to do is we're going to switch into a Vim that would look a lot closer to what you would have on your initial start. And then I'm going to go over how some of the stuff that I was doing. So first, let's talk about, how do we get into Vim, right? That's, a key component. And so what we can do is we do, just like any other command, we do Vim, and then we do our file name. And so I'm going to do hello.cpp again. And so now we're in Vim. See, but now, if I just started typing, see how, none of the letters that I was typing happened? And so what we first have to, Vim works based off of modes. There are 3 important modes to think about. There's normal mode, which is what you are in by default. That's what Vim, as soon as you launch it, that's what it puts you in. There's command mode, which is how we can do things like writing without quitting, or just other useful commands. And then there's insert mode. That is the thing that you will be in most of the, or that's how you actually type stuff. That's how you insert. Now, to get into insert mode, what you have to do is you have to press I from normal mode. And again, normal mode is what we're in by default. So if I press I, see now I'm in insert mode. If you look down here at the bottom left, see we're now in insert mode? So now, when I type, the letters actually pop up. And so now you might be thinking, okay, I'm done. I've typed all I want to type. Actually, and then let's actually just go to instead of a coding, let's just make this more about Vim. So if I just say hello, right? It's now I'm done. I don't want to do anything else. This is what all my file needs. The biggest meme about Vim is how do you get out of Vim? And it's weird because there's no X, there's no anything like that. If I close out of the terminal, it doesn't actually close out of Vim. And so what we have to do is to go back to normal mode. In other words, to get out of insert mode, all we have to do is press escape. So once we press escape, now if I type H, right, nothing is happening. And actually, in fact, something weird is happening, which we'll go into in a couple minutes. So now we have gotten out of insert mode, but now we're still not out of Vim. We're still in Vim. We still have to figure out how to get out. And so there are several ways of doing it. The easiest for most people who, have access to all 10 fingers while they're typing is what you do is you hold shift and then you press Z twice and then you let go of shift when you're done. And that saves and quits. So that gets you out of Vim. So now if we go back into hello, right, the file that we made, see, our hello is there. Now, the other way to do it is to go into command mode. Now, to go into command mode, we again have to be in normal mode. And just to reiterate this, normal mode is your starting point. It's your branching off point. That is where Vim is most useful, is in the command mode, because that's where we make use of all of the Vim keybinds or shortcuts. And so to get into command mode, from normal mode, we press colon. And then you'll notice down here at the bottom, the little colon shows up. And now, when I type, it, again, is down here, not into our file. And so, something we might want to type here is just W. And then press enter. And then now we have saved it. So let's say, we just want to save our work just to make sure that, it doesn't get lost. Our very important text file. We add our hello world. But now, let's say we don't want to be fully done. We don't want to get back out. We just want to write it. So we just do :W and then enter. And see now, if I do it again and only press enter once, see how down here it says written? That means we have saved the file. Now, I don't like what I'm reading about an overthrow happening, but I'm going to ignore that for now. So now we have written the file. And so now we can continue making changes. If I wanted to say something like, don't overthrow as president, if I could type, we're going to add 3 exclamation points because it's very, very important. And so now, we had our save from previous, right? And so now, let's say, okay, now we want to get out. But let's say I don't want the don't overthrow Voss as president of ACM saved. I just want it to go back to Hello World. And this could happen, like, you typed a bunch of stuff and you're like, you know what, I don't want to do that anymore. I just want to go back to what I had before and what I saved. That is where the command mode comes in very handy. Because we can do colon, and then we do Q. But if I just do Q, and Q standing for quit, it's going to yell at me. It says no write since last change, which means I haven't saved it. It's just like in Word or Notepad or any other kind of like graphical program that you would use. You try and close it and you haven't saved. It asks you, hey, do you really want to do that? Do you actually want to not save your work? And so instead of there being a nice box that we click that says, yes, I actually want to close, this is Vim's version of that. Now, if we actually wanted to quit, we would do Q and then exclamation point. The exclamation point just says, like, hey, I really want to do this. Yes, I know I didn't save anything. I actually want to exit. Please get me out of here. And then now, if we again go, if we again go to our hello, see, now, there's nothing saying not to overthrow Voss as president. Okay. So now, let's say we wanted to write and quit the other way in Vim, not the Shift ZZ. Again, use whatever you're comfortable with. I tend to do it the colon the other way. So now let's go back to saying don't overthrow Voss, because that's definitely a message that we want to save, because that's very important.
I think you're biased.
Maybe. Okay. And so now we're back out of insert mode again. And so now we're going to combine 2 of the commands that we learned. So we learned W, which writes. Yep, see? And so, I forgot my exclamation points. And so now I'm going to go back into insert mode. And so keep in mind that arrow keys work while you're in Vim or while you're in insert mode. And that's a way to move around if you need to while you're in insert mode. And so I'm going to just add back a couple more, exclamation points, because, like I said, very important message. And I'm going to go back out. And so now I'm going to do WQ for write quit. And now, if I go back in, let's see how our message is still there. And so I went into a different mode there when I press Shift V. This is called visual mode. This allows us to highlight things. So by default, Vim does not work with the mouse. Now, I know on Lawton's class server, he does have it configured that it will work with the mouse out of the box. And I think mine is as well. So if I just click, I can click and highlight, I can do all these things, I can move around. But by default, Vim is supposed to be keyboard driven. So if I run the command, mouse off, it's not that. I don't remember what the exact command is, but there's a way of turning it off, which can be helpful for certain times where you don't really want the mouse, or if you do want the mouse and it's not on by default. And so we can highlight, right, with the mouse, or we can highlight using the keyboard. But highlighting lets us to, so now I can copy. And so the way we copy is we do it's not Control C. You actually don't want to do Control C. So if I do Control C, it didn't do what I expected it to do. It did not copy it. Most of the time, it will actually. Yeah, you don't necessarily want to do that. You also don't want to do Control Z. See how it did not undo anything? It just took me out. So we accidentally minimized the program. And so I know this isn't a Unix workshop, but if you accidentally press Control Z, if you type FG and then enter, you get it back. But remember, Control Z does not undo. Undo is actually, so if I go into enter mode and let's say I, accidentally messed up a whole bunch of stuff, undo is U. You just press U, and bam, everything's back to normal. If I wanted to redo, it's Control R. And we'll find out later why it's not just R. Because R actually does something else. But if I undo again, now we're back. We have our important message. Okay. So now let's talk about copying again. Now that we've gone back around that. So instead of Control C, what we do is we yank. We call it copying, we call it yanking. And so yank starts with a Y, so we use the key Y. Again, all from normal mode. Because normal mode is what allows us to use, because otherwise we would have to press some sort of modifier key, right? Control, Shift, Alt, Windows. But that takes too many keystrokes, right? That takes too much effort. We want to just be able to press it really close to where our fingers normally lie on the home row. So we press Y. But if I just press Y, if you'll notice, down here in the bottom right, the Y is just sitting there. The reason is, it's waiting for me to tell it what I want to copy. So by me pressing Y, it knows that I want to copy something, but it doesn't tell Vim what I want to copy. If I want to just copy this whole line, all I have to do is press Y again. So YY copies. Now, how do we paste? Paste also starts with P, but the term we use is put. So if I press P, bam, now we're pasting. If I want to undo, I'm just going to undo all that. But let's say I just wanted to copy the exclamation points. So I might do something like Y, and then W. And then if I paste, and so W, if I stands for it stands for a word. So go forward one word. So if I go all the way back, if I press W at the start of hello, we're going to go to the comma. If I press W again, we're going to go to the W. Again, we go to the exclamation point. So these are called motions. These are Vim motions. And so if we want to go backwards one word, we press B. And see, it'll even work line by line. And so we can take our Y command for yank, and we can combine it with a motion. So if we do Y and then W, now I've just copied my name. Instead of copying the whole line. Whereas if I do YY, see how it copies the whole line? But if we do YW, just one word. Okay, so now we know two motions. We know W and we know B for back. And back works the same way. So if I'm here, and let's say I want to copy just president. Well, I don't want to move my cursor all the way over to president just to do YW. That takes too much effort. So if instead, if I'm here and I do YB, it does the same thing. Or if I do YW, I'm just going to get resident. Or a space, because there was a space right there. And notice how backspace doesn't do anything either. We can't just backspace. So we have to be in insert mode. Or, let's learn how to delete things in the Vim way. So notice how when I pressed W, it jumps past all of the white space. So let's say I pressed D, and then let's say we want to get to the end of the word, right? Because we want to delete all that space. There's too much space there. So what we can do is we can press E. E takes us towards the end of the word. So again, if I do E, it takes us to the end of the word. See how it takes us right to the end of the word? We go back. If we do this, and we go over one, now let's learn how to delete. So delete starts with D. So we are just going to use the D. And so the same rules apply. If we just did as a yank, if we did DD, now we've gotten rid of our whole line. We don't want to do that. But that is very helpful. See how we have all this white space down here? If I DD, DD again, bam, now all those blank lines are gone. So now if I am back here, and now let's say I want to delete all this white space. So I know W from here takes me right up to that R. So if I do like what we did before with yank, and I do DW, bam. Now we've gotten rid of all that white space. So let's say DW, bam. Gotten rid of that. I don't want resident, I just want president. So I'm going to get rid of that word as well by doing the same thing. DW. And so now I want that space back. So I'm going to go into insert mode, press space, go back out of insert mode. And then we have this extra P here. We can get rid of that. We can get rid of one character at a time by just pressing X. So if I press X, it gets rid of it. If I undo that, and I place my character here instead of moving my character here, then pressing X, I'm in insert mode. Instead of moving my character here, then pressing X, I can instead press Shift X or capital X, and it will delete behind. Okay. And so a lot of things will work that way. So let's say I'm here and I want to get to that first exclamation point. Another very helpful Vim motion is the find motion. And so find starts with F. So we can do that by pressing F and then pressing the key of what we want to find. Well, we want to find the first exclamation point. So if we do exclamation point, it jumps us all the way across straight to that first exclamation point. Well, let's say, oh, I want to change it to do not instead of don't. So I could sit here and I could go back. Or I could, if I'm back here again, I could instead, because I know that there's an apostrophe in don't, that would be a great way to jump all the way back. And so just like with X and Shift X, F works the exact same way. So if I want to go backwards, instead of doing F, I just do capital F. So F, and then apostrophe. And then now I'm here. So, but now, in order to start changing stuff, I have to go into insert mode, press delete, that. And that's kind of slow. So now we're going to learn a better way of doing that. Because you have to press insert mode, delete the key, add the new key, arrow over, and then press space. And then you can get out of insert mode. So now we're going to learn another key. We're going to learn S. And so S stands for substitute. But so if I press S, it's going to get rid of that key, that apostrophe, and place us into insert mode. And so now we can press our not. Bam. We just saved ourselves a keystroke. Now that might not seem like a lot, but over time, that's where that builds up. And so now, if I want to, let's show a better use case for S. Let's combine it with a motion. So let's say I want to replace president, or I want to substitute president with something else. So there's a couple ways we can do it. We can use the substitute, or we can use another one of my favorite keys, the C key. So C stands for change. So we can do SW. No, we can't. I lied. So if we wanted to do, because S only does one character. C, however, we can use emotion, right? Because if we want to do S, we would have to do S, and then, let's say I wanted to say as the awesome president, let's say. I would have to do S, this, and then delete, and that's getting to be too many deletes and all that. That's too many keystrokes. No one's got time for that. So we undo. Okay. So instead, we're going to do change. So change works very similarly to S. However, it can use emotion. So if I do CW, bam. Now we have gotten rid of that entire word, and we're in insert mode, saving us tons of keystrokes. Now I can just type. And then when you misspell things and you waste keystrokes there, you know that you haven't wasted keystrokes deleting all of the mess that you made earlier. So now, let's learn another motion. That's so many exclamation points at the end. I don't think we need that many. But first, can someone tell me how we get to that first exclamation point again? What motion are we going to use to get to the first exclamation point? Exactly. The F key for find. Exactly. We're going to do F and then our exclamation point. Perfect. So now we're here. And now, if you're typing with your fingers on the home row, the arrow keys are really far. You have to go from like here all the way down to here, and that it's just too far away. It wastes time, especially if you're doing this for hours on end. Or if for whatever reason you're typing with a chopstick, like I do, then it's extra far away. Especially if you're over here doing something like F and then shift and then your exclamation point. I'm over here, arrow keys are over here. That's a whole lot of movement. So the other thing that you can do in Vim is instead of using the arrow keys, we can use H, J, K, and L. And so H is left, L is right, K is up, and J is down. And I'm really mostly explaining this so I can start using it again and not be confusing. Because for me, it's really close. It's really nice. It takes quite a while to get used to, but once you get used to it, it is extremely nice and will save you a ton of time. So now, let's say I want 3 exclamation points. So from our, if we go all the way to the left again, if we run our find command, or find key motion, we're here. I'm going to go over, let's say I want 3 exclamation points. Bam, I'm over 3 now. And so now, how do I delete the rest of them? So what we're going to do, there's actually a couple of options. So the quickest is by doing capital D. Capital D will delete the rest of the line that you are on. That's one way. That's probably the quickest way, is by doing capital D. But that doesn't teach us a new motion. So let's do something that does. And so also, that the capital D would also work for yank. So I did capital Y, then paste. Oh, it didn't work. So capital Y doesn't do the same thing as capital D. Capital Y only does the line. I didn't know that. I don't use that very often. But that's good to know. We're learning new stuff together. So since Y, it doesn't work that way for Y, we need to learn a motion. So if we did want to copy all of these exclamation points, we could. So now we're going to learn, and it's also helpful if you want to just move to the end of the line. Because like we said, all these motions, right, can be used just to, move stuff around. Move our cursor around as well as using them in combination with other keys. So if we're here again, we're over 3. Now we're going to learn the end of line motion. I didn't quite mention that yet. I was going to. So the thing that Hazelton mentioned is that if we delete a whole line, it's not gone forever. It's actually stored. So it's the equivalent of cutting in something like Word, where it deletes it, but it still stores it in our clipboard. But we don't call it clipboards in Vim, we call them registers. So now I can still paste this. Even though I deleted it, I can still paste it. Okay, so now let's learn the end of line motion. So the end of line motion is $sign. Now don't ask me why. I have no idea. But it's $sign. So if I just did $sign, it takes us to the end of line. But that's not what we want. So I'm going to go back to the first exclamation point by doing capital F. that's not going to work because that took us just back to the next available one. So the F command takes us to the very next occurrence. So if I did F exclamation point, it's going to do that. If I did the backwards version of it, capital F, and let's say T, it's going to take me to the first occurrence. And so now, let's go back to the first, go over 3. Now we're going to actually delete all of these exclamation points. So we're going to start our thing with D, just like any other. And then we're going to do that new motion that we learned, which was $. D, $. Finally, all of those exclamation points are gone. There was no reason for them. Now they're gone. Okay. And so now, I want to save the work. Does anyone remember how to save but not exit? How do we save but not exit? Exactly. Colon W. And remember, we have to be in normal mode. Which means, because if we just did colon W here, right, it's just going to type colon W. But we don't want that. So remember to press escape before you try to run a command. Remember, because we have to be in the command mode. So colon W. And then to run that, you just press enter. And so now we've saved it. Cool. Well, we want to save our work, our very important work. Okay. So now, sometimes if, let's say I did the T thing, right? I wanted to go backwards to all the T's. So let's do it. I said F, capital F, and then T. I took us back. I don't want to type capital F T again. For me, that's 3 keystrokes. For most people, that's 2 keystrokes. That's too much. That's too many keystrokes. What we can do instead is we can press the semicolon. The semicolon will repeat the last motion that you just did. Comma will repeat it, but in the opposite direction. Also super helpful. And so let's say I did something like what I did earlier. But let's say I have when I was giving my example. So let's say I have something like C out, C out, C out. And now I'm going to use my back to do that. And so let's say I want to make a bunch of copies of this, and so I can showcase the next thing. So we have a couple options again. But let's learn a new mode. So let's go back to visual mode. So we know visual mode, we can get to it, we can just highlight. But that's not fun. No one has time to be able to switch from the keyboard to the mouse, to the keyboard to the mouse, to the keyboard to the mouse. No. No one's got time for that. So what we can do instead is we can use the V key from normal mode. If we press V, see how now in the bottom left, we're in a whole new mode. If we press I, we go into insert. Whereas if we press V, we go into visual mode. And so now, if I do that HJKL, see how now we're highlighting? We're moving what we're highlighting? Cool. And so now, instead of having to do something like YY, we already have selected what we want to copy. So all we have to do is press Y. And you'll see down in the bottom left here, it says 3 lines yanked. So now, if I press P, P. But you'll notice that it didn't do it very cleanly. We're pasting, or we copied, right to the end, but we didn't catch that new line. Let's see if there's a better way. So the better way is to press Shift when we press V. Shift V puts us into visual line mode. So now it copies a whole line at a time when I go up. If I go left and right, see how it's not changing what's highlighted? Only when I press up or down does it change what's highlighted. So now if I press Y, and I go to the bottom, I press P, see how now we're pasting, or putting 3 at a time? Okay. So now, I'm going to split these into 2 groups. And so we're going to add our SCD : to these 2 groups in a couple different ways. So if we go up, and we do our insert, right? Okay. So we've done our standard : Now, I don't want to type all that again. Like I said, too much typing. We could copy it, but that's also too much typing. That's too many keystrokes. We have to figure out how exactly to highlight it. Then we have to copy it. Then we have to paste it. No. It's too much. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to go down, back. We're just going to press period. Pressing period will redo whatever your last motion or command was. So whereas comma and semicolon will play back your motions or undo your motions, period will redo your inserts, your deletes. So if I do DD and I do period, see how it's deleting again? It's redoing the deletion, or it's redoing the insertion. So if I go into insert here and do this again, go down, go back, press period, bam. Now to do that, that's 3 keystrokes instead of, let's see, what was it? I go down, back, and then so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 keystrokes as opposed to 3. 3 keystrokes is definitely better than 7 keystrokes. But this is still too many keystrokes, especially if you have to do a whole block of these. We go down, we go back, we go period, we go down, we go back, we go period. We go down, we go back, we go period. We go down, we go back, we go period. We go down, we go back, we go period. That still adds up to a lot of keystrokes. Now we could copy it, but let's say we had different messages in all of these couts. So we can't really copy it because we don't really want to, go through and retype all of them. But we do want to clean it up and not have using namespace SCD. So we can't really copy it. That's not the answer. And so what we can do, though, is we can go into a different kind of visual mode. Instead of Shift, remember Shift does our line. V is just, anything. Right? I can copy portion, or I can highlight portions. Control. That didn't work. So apparently my control V is actually bound in here. So I'm just going to go ahead and undo that. I'm also going to get rid of that. Control C. And now I got to find Control V. There it is. Sorry about that. So normally in things like putty, that won't be an issue. Control V doesn't work by default. So again, if I press Control V, it puts us into visual block mode. And so now, if I go down, notice how it's not copying a whole line. Or not highlighting, I should say. Not highlighting a whole line. It's just copying this, it's just highlighting this first character. So now we're all the way down. And so now, if I press Insert, and then I start typing. Oh, what? Okay, apparently this doesn't work. I thought it did. What? Okay, so instead what we're going to do is we're going to do our SE colon, right? So we just did that. So now if I do Control V, all the way down, press period, it still doesn't work. So just another quick aside. You'll notice on the left-hand side, I have line numbers that are kind of weird. So they, it starts at 1 and goes all the way up to 10. Kind of does some weird stuff there. You think I need to use Shift-I? Maybe. Hazelton was right. Thank you, Hazelton. So what Shift-I does, just in normal, is it does insertion at the beginning of a line. So we'll see how it works here first. So we highlighted all the way down using our Control V. And so now we're going to type std colon, and then we're going to press escape twice. First to get out of insert mode, then to get out of our block highlight. So now, notice nothing's happened yet. We press it again. Bam. All the way down. Super quick. So now, let's do that again. So I just copied it again. I'm going to paste it 50 times. That would be a lot to do any other way. And this is where I'm also going to showcase the next kind of thing that I want to showcase. So let's say, we're in our Control V. Right, we're in our visual block. I could sit here and press J 50 times. Or just hold it. But like I said, that's too much. Nobody's got time for that. But you'll notice I have something called relative line number, as well as line number, which I will show you how to turn on. So right here, I clicked out of the block for right now. But right here, you'll see that it says 16. That is our current line number, which we can confirm if we look down over here on the bottom right. In some Vim configurations, the current cursor position is in a different spot, but the line number is right here. And so the other cool thing you can do is you'll notice that I have relative line numbers, so that I know that this line down here, this bottom one right here, is 50 lines past where I am. Now, the reason we use that is we can use numbers to repeat any command in Vim that many times. So let's say that I want to go down 50 times. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do 50. Notice in the bottom right, 50 is just saved here, right? Remember how when we did Y or when we did D, it would just, the D or the Y would sit there until we press something else? So this is our current queue of something that's about to run. So we know Vim knows that we want to do whatever we're about to do 50 times. And so now we just got to tell it, what do we want to do 50 times? Well, we want to go down. J. Bam. And so now, if we do the same thing that we did before, we do our Shift I, we do our SE : we press our escape twice. We just did the SCD : times 50 very quickly. This is the power of Vim. This is why Vim is so powerful, why it saves so much time, why people spend, an hour and a half at a, workshop. But really, this is only scratching the surface. This is why. This is the power. Do this, over the course of, a career, or even just a class, even one class, and you're going to be saving a significant amount of time and a significant amount of effort put into actually typing. It will also, like I said, it also will speed you up. I type with one chopstick. I can get about 40 words per minute, which is pretty respectable. People can type way faster than that. There are times where I can finish an assignment before people because I know the Vim tricks to be able to get the editing and stuff done quicker. Even though we have the same level of experience with the programming, we have this, we're using the same things, we're using the same tools. I have just decided to learn the tool that I'm using more to kind of level out that playing field. And so Vim is extremely helpful and can be extremely quick, and it will save you tons and tons of time if you can learn it well. And things like this, what we just did, are definite examples of where it can help you. And so now, I want to delete all these 50 lines that we just did. Okay, I don't need them anymore. Get them out of here. So now we have a couple options. We could sit here and do visual line, go all the way down, or use our trick, 50J. But I don't want to do that. You can also do it outside of any kind of mode. So I can do 50K to jump all the way back up to the top. But I don't want to do it that way. That, again, too many keystrokes. Remember, we want to save keystrokes. We want to save time. We want to be able to get done before people. And so what we can do is we have a couple options. We can either do 50 DD. That'd work. Oops. I hit undo twice. Remember, Control R redoes and undo. So I could do, 51 because there's 51 lines. 51 DD. That works. Or you could do D51D. And so now that can be helpful if you have a specific motion. Now, with the deleting 50 lines, not as useful. And it kind of gets more complicated when you're trying to do something else to do it. But there's just multiple ways of doing things in Vim, and that's the other beauty of it. Is that just like in programming, there's several different ways of solving the same issue. I want to get down to the bottom. I can do 50J. That's one way. If I go back up. There's also another one to take you to the bottom of a file. So if I do capital G, that will take me directly to the bottom of a file. And if I do GG, it takes me directly to the top of a file. Now, in this file, it's not that big of a deal. But if I say copy, all of these, and then I want to paste them 500 times, 500, and then P. What? And then, yeah, if I do 500 P, now we have a whole lot more lines. I would be sitting here forever, holding J, going all the way down. And I don't remember how many lines there are. I mean, you can do the quick math to figure out what's the bottom, and then you can do it by the repeated J, or Shift G. Bam, we're all the way at the bottom. GG, we're all the way at the top. 50, GG, super easy, super nice. But, I'm going to undo that because we definitely don't need that many lines. GG, exactly. 50, GG, takes us all the way to the top. Super helpful. And so, actually, I'll show you a cool example also. If I go back out, right quit, I will do that. I'm going to write another. And we'll see how. Okay, so if I write this, see how my indentation? Oh, I even forgot a W or an M. So we use X, I, M. Actually, I could have used our P there, but whatever. So our indentation isn't great, especially if I do, Y and then, let's say 20. Oh, what happened there? I accidentally pressed something else. Our indentation is kind of off. Let's say I come in here, and for whatever reason, this one gets indented all the way over here. This one's indented here. All like that. It's crazy. Wild. There's another really helpful command to help us format our code and fix our indentation. So if we do GG to go all the way to the top, then we're going to do equals, and then we want to format the whole file. So all we're going to do is all the way to go all the way down to the bottom. The bottom motion is our capital G. And watch the transformation. See how it just fixed everything? It just indented everything properly. We had all this crazy indentation, and then G equals capital G, and bam, our indentation is fixed. And so we can also do it. Let's say we have our main here, and let's say we, this is also probably something that you haven't quite seen yet, but let's say we have another function. Why am I doing it down here? Remember, GG goes all the way to the top. Another helpful is O. So O will put you on a new line and put you in insert mode. So I wanted my line right here. So I did O, bam. And then if I wanted it above, I can do Shift O. And then now we have a new line above. So that's also helpful. DD to delete the line. O. And don't worry if you haven't, don't know what the code is doing. I'm more showing like the formatting part of it. So if we have some more out. This one we're going to do over here. Okay. So I'm going to copy these two. And I'm going to paste them 20 times. Bam. Now we have a whole lot of stuff that looks really weird. Whatever. We want to fix it. But we already know main is fine. And let's imagine that our whole file is 10,000 lines long. That's a lot of work for the computer to do for no reason, and we don't know if it's going to do it correctly. We don't want to have to go through and look at each 10,000 lines and make sure that like it did the indentation properly. So what we can do, and we're going to utilize another new motion. So we're going to go to our brackets. So the motion that we're going to utilize is the percent sign. So the percent sign will take you between the pairs of things. For example, if we are in the quotes, not quotes, parentheses, brackets, and curly braces are what it will work for. So if I have my parentheses here and I have just a ton of characters with a ton of spaces, so that way Word, wouldn't help us much. Right? Let's say it's on, several lines. All I have to do is go to one of the parentheses, press Shift 5, and bam. Now I'm right on this one. Press it again. Now I'm on that one. And so we can combine that with one of our keys. So let's say we want to get rid of this because this doesn't really mean anything. So if we do D percent sign, we got rid of that whole thing. We can also combine that with our equals that we learned for the indentation fix. So if we go here and we do our equals and our percent, it bulk indented just the function that we were in, or just the curly braces we were in. Or let's say if it was brackets, it would also work for that. Which is also really helpful because sometimes you don't want to really lose your spot where you're coding, but you do want to fix it, right? If you have, let's say, an if statement, it's kind of long, but it's not super long, and you're deep in the file. You don't want to get out of it. You don't want to, uh, you don't want to lose your spot, so you do the equals and then make use of the shift 5. But let's say you're done, you're good, you're ready to, make sure it's a shorter file. This is fairly short, 75 lines, not too bad. You want to format the whole thing again. So now we do the GG equals capital G again. And now we've indented the whole file again. So that can also be very useful. And so again, I'm going to do my write quit. Go back into our hello. And I'm going to delete until the end of the line. Okay. And then so I think we're going to use the last couple minutes just to go over a few more keys and then helpful tricks on how to get better at Vim. So one of the other keys that I use a lot is I use to replace. Let's say I just want to replace the V with a capital V. So replace starts with R. So we're going to use the R key. So we're going to use R, and then whatever key we put next, let's say I did L, it's going to replace that one single character with that letter. So let's say we highlighted lost, not visual line. And then we press R, and we press S. See how it replaces the whole thing with S? So whatever you have highlighted, it's going to replace it with whatever character you type. So if we change the word again, we type lost, we go back, we want it capitalized. So we're going to do R, capital V, bam. Cool. Another helpful is control Fing through a file. So let's say, we have 500p, and then we go up 333 lines, and we change, I don't even know where my thing is. Oh, I went up. So let's go 333 up. Okay, and then let's change the to V. Why not? So I'm going to use another key here called append. So A. It just, instead of, if we go into normal insert mode, see how we go right there? A puts just one character to the right, which can be helpful depending on where Vim places your cursor. That's the word I was looking for. And so let's say we change that to the, we're all the way up here. We have no idea what line we just put it on. I don't want to search through it. And so let's figure out how to control F. Now, it's not actually control F. It is instead slash. We use the slash command, or slash key. So if we do slash, notice how in the bottom left here, we have our thing. And so I can type just like in command mode, but this is the search mode. And so if I type V, if if I type just the, see what's going to highlight every occurrence of the. But as soon as I add the other E, if I press enter, bam, we're at the. So it could have been anywhere in the file. Bam. Let's say I want to go back to it. I had searched. I know I have that search still available. I could search it again. But if I press N, it will take me to the next occurrence of it. I have found E. And so let's say we add another the right here. And so if we do slash the again, well, okay, so now I can go to the next one by pressing N. Or, so if I do N again, it would circle back, as it says, search hit bottom, continue at top. So I can go between those, but let's say there was a third in between. Right, so now I have to hit 3. But let's say there was 50 occurrences, and I just wanted to go back and forth between the bottom two. So I can press N to go there, and then if I press capital N, it takes me back one occurrence. So the other thing is that, so slash finds the first occurrence of whatever your search is. Let's say we want the last occurrence of the. Just like with so many other Vim commands, if we just did shift slash, or in other words, question mark, and then the, it starts at the bottom and takes us to the last occurrence. So if I did president, see how it took us all the way down to the bottom? It found the last one instead of the first, which can also be very helpful. So I know I just threw a ton of information at all of you. And you're probably not going to remember half of it, at least. So there are a couple ways of practicing Vim. The best one that you can do from the terminal, because it will also teach you, is run a command vim tutor. And it will walk you through a lot of the same stuff that we just did here and more. It will tell you how to get out of Vim. It will have you practice some of the motions that we did. It can be extremely, extremely helpful, and it's always here. Pretty much anywhere there's Vim installed, Vim Tutor is also installed right with it, which includes Lawton's class server, Kearney's class server, or even if you make your own server and download Vim onto it, which typically is already installed. Vim Tutor will be right there with you. There are also a couple of great online resources, which I will link to a couple of them afterwards. And so let's say I'm going to get out of this. We're out of it. The other resource that will be available to you is this workshop. I have been recording this whole time, and I will be uploading it and posting a link to that as well for you to refer back to if you feel like it. But like I said, Vim Tutor is definitely the other great way to go. Vim Racer. Vim, and the other way of practicing getting good is just to use it. Start with just a few of the keys. Just do insert, throw in a couple more. You're not going to there's too many keys to memorize all of them. I don't know all of them. As you guys saw a couple of examples, like I wasn't exactly sure how to do a couple of things that I was trying to do. You are not expected to learn all of this just from this one workshop, but you should use a small portion of it and build up from there. Get good at the basics and then work up from there, and then you can start doing some crazy Vim commands. And then, like Hazelton just said, Vim has a help built in. So if you do colon, which puts you in command mode, help, and then V, it will bring you into more than you ever would want to know about visual. There's a lot to learn about Vim, and like I said, you're not expected to learn it all right now. Just use this as a kind of starting guide and kind of a way of getting you into wanting to learn more. So, like Hazelton said, and showing, you can feed it whatever if you remember a key, but you don't quite remember what it does, you can just type help, space, and then follow it with whatever the key is. And remember to get out, :Q, get you out of the help, but it also can get you out of Vim. Are there any questions? And I will also be linking some resources, so once you get more used to Vim, I will link to a great YouTube series that walks through the customization of Vim, which is how you get from what we had in this tab here to what I use all the time here. I didn't know what I was really doing until I was watching some videos, and it can also be very helpful. So :Q exclamation point is to force quit. So it's to quit without saving. If you want to quit with saving, you can do :WQ. Or you can hold Shift and press Z twice while holding Shift both times, and then letting go. You're very welcome. So, CD ... Rohan, are you talking about in Vim or in the terminal? So CD ... will take you up one folder. So if I go back into CD ... takes you up one folder. Actually, that leads into our next workshop. On Friday, there will be a workshop, or as of right now, assuming nothing changes, our next workshop will be about Unix. which will be taught by an actual professor, Professor Kearney, and he will be going over using the terminal and getting more used to it, and some fun commands and useful commands to go along with it.
And as it stands for that workshop, we will be holding it in AC3 215 from 6:30 to 8 p.m. this Friday. If anything ends up changing about that, updates will be posted to the workshops channel, so just make sure to keep an eye on that. Even if you want to keep the Discord itself muted, that's fine. Just make sure you can get notifications from the workshops channel, because that's where everything that's important will get posted to.
Okay. Well, thank you everybody for coming out. If you joined later, make sure you go ahead and fill out the form that should be linked up above. And actually, I'll repost it. That way we know you were here. And that way, if you are in Professor Lawton's class, you can get some extra credit. And this helps us out as well as you guys. So thank you, everybody. And like I said, I will be posting some more resources as well as this video